It's day 2 of the Great Canadian Book Debate. We said farewell to the first title yesterday. Another book must go today. Which title will it be? Get ready to find out. I'm your host, Ali Hassan, and this is Canada Reads.
This is Canada Reads, Canada's annual title fight.
Hello, Canada. We are searching for the one book that will change the narrative. Who are the panelists joining me on this fearless quest? Let's find out.
Tanse, hello, I am Shayla Stonechild. I'm an advocate for Indigenous wellness and the founder of the Matriarch Movement.
My dedication is for my ancestors and for other Indigenous people.
I am championing a two-spirit journey by Ma-Nee Chacaby and Mary Louisa Plummer.
Hi, I'm Linwood Barclay. I'm a best-selling author.
I spend 8 hours a day when I'm in the thick of writing a book, and you're creating this world in your head.
I am defending Jennie's Boy by Wayne Johnston.
Hi, I'm Saïd M'Dahoma. I'm a pastry chef with a neuroscience PhD.
I started baking 9 years ago, right after getting my PhD, because I miss the French pastries I grew up eating in Paris.
I'm defending Dandelion by Jamie Chai Yun Liew.
Hi, I'm Maggie Mac Neil. I'm an Olympic swimmer and aspiring lawyer.
So you won 3 medals, including a gold medal.
I just want to inspire the next generation.
I am defending Watch Out for Her by Samantha M. Bailey.
Hi, I'm Michelle Morgan. I'm an actor and director.
This ranch isn't going down. Not on my watch.
I am defending Eda and Otto and Russell and James by Emma Hooper.
What will be the one book all of Canada should read? We'll find out soon.
There you have it, our Canada Reads 2025 contenders. You know, Saïd, watching and listening to you talk about French pastries and then all of us sitting here pastryless, we live in a corrupt world. I don't know if you understand what this, you missed an opportunity here.
Yeah,
man.
I should have thought about bribing you.
You should have thought about it. So day 1 of the Great Canadian Book Debate was the feeling out period. We had our first vote and our first elimination yesterday. In the end, it was a 4-1 vote against Watch Out for Her by Samantha M. Bailey. It became the first book to be eliminated on Canada Reads this year. Maggie, you were championing Watch Out for Her. Tell me how you're feeling today.
Honestly, my heart rate is exponentially lower than it was at this point yesterday. But I'm very excited to be able to continue in the debates and listen to what you guys have to say. Some of you will have to try harder than others to convince me that your book should stay in the competition. But no, I'm excited to be here, and this is just a very different opportunity for me.
It's nice to hear you embracing your free agency in the spirit that it's intended. Before we move on, I'm wondering if you have some words to share with Samantha Bay, or telling this country why they should read Watch Out for Her.
Reading is just such an important thing, and we have so much screens, TVs, phones, iPads, especially with the younger generation, and reading and picking up a book is super important, and I came on the show to promote that, and I wasn't the best reader growing up, and I've recently taken it up now, reading my 28th book since retirement, so it's definitely something that I want to get back to doing and encourage others to do as well. I'm also very grateful for Sam and all of her support, and this has been the opportunity that I wasn't expecting, but very grateful to be here.
And in case anyone thinks they misheard, yes, 25-year-old Maggie Mac Neil did say the word retirement, just in case that you think you misheard. Thank you very much, Maggie. All right, there are 4 great books still on the table. Maggie is our first free agent. That makes her a bit of a wild card. It seems like you are embracing your wild cardness. But yeah, she's put it out there. Watch out, panelists. Maggie's support or lack thereof could very well change this game. The remaining titles are Jennie's Boy by Wayne Johnston, chosen by Linwood Barclay. Dandelion by Jamie Chai Yun Liew, chosen by Saïd M'Dahoma. Etta and Otto and Russell and James by Emma Hooper, backed by Michelle Morgan. And A Two-Spirit Journey by Ma-Nee Chacaby, written with Mary Louisa Plummer, championed by Shayla Stonechild. I had said earlier that day 1 was the feeling out period. That means that day 2, the gloves are off. We're going to have 4 intense rounds of debate We will kick off each one with a opening statement. You will each get 60 seconds to tell us what makes the book you are championing the one to change the narrative. So let's get into it. It is time to debate. We're going to continue to go clockwise around the 8 rounds. Before we get into things, I want to let the audience know that the contending books do deal with difficult topics such as abuse, addiction, mental health, and violence. Something to take note of as we get into the show. Linwood, you're on my left. You are up first. You are championing Jennie's Boy by Wayne Johnston. The tender and comedic memoir recounts a 6-month period in Wayne Johnston's life, growing up in a Newfoundland community as a sickly child with a fiercely protective mother. I'm going to give you 60 seconds. Why is Jennie's Boy the one book to change the narrative?
Well, with all respect to the theme, I'm not sure what change the narrative quite means, because everybody's narrative is different. But Wayne's narrative in this book is every bit as good as I was when I talked about it yesterday. And one of the things that came up about it was that it was the one criticism that it seemed a bit repetitive, that he's, sick throughout this book. But I think that Wayne's sickness, as he describes it when he was 7 years old, is a kind of window that takes us into Newfoundland at that time, and what it was like, and what it was like for his family, and what it was like for him to go across the street with his grandmother every day, where she would mix him up some Nestle's Quick in ice water with some ice in it. That's what he would have. And his mother's idea to cure him was to have people pray for him. So the sickness gives us this window into this time and this period, and he does it beautifully.
Okay, with some time to spare. Thank you, Linwood. All right, panelists, you heard what Linwood had to say. What do you think? Saïd, let me begin with you.
One thing that I had trouble with Jennie's Boy is definitely, I think he's trying to get people to feel better by using humor. And even though I think it's done well, it didn't really land with me. Because it was, what happened to Wayne was so bad. Like, I kept worrying for him. I kept wondering what would happen next, that the humor just didn't land with me. There's also everything that's about, when people are saying it's repetitive, I think one of the things that they want to mention is how something happens to Wayne, then he tells about it to his grandmother, and you can see that happening all throughout the book. So I thought that it was kind of predictable at some point, that the plot was not advancing too much. And I know that it's because it's his life.
It's his life, yeah.
Not much was happening, but that's, I wish we saw a little bit more about what would happen after. There's like this whole part of the book, I mean, actually too small in my opinion, at the end, where it's like, he recovered, he gets better, and it just over, right? So I was kind of frustrated with that.
See, I think that I think sometimes too, it's time plus distance is what allows us to look back at something that's tragic and find something in it that's funny. And I think that's what the brilliance in this book, because yes, it was a very difficult time for him, but when you come across parts where they were so poor that that when the dad would get someone to come and fix the TV, he'd always hire somebody who was so inexperienced and so cheap he'd do it wrong. So the TV gets fixed, but the image is upside down. So the way they solve that is they turn the TV upside down, and then they remove the legs and they put a flower pot on top. That's funny. Now, I'm sure at the time, it was like, well, we're pretty poor, this is all we could do. But the time and the distance, and Wayne looks back, or when Lucy, his grandmother, is looking after him, and he's so sickly, and she says to him, your skin looks like evaporated milk. And that just made me laugh out loud, because it's first of all, it's brilliantly descriptive, but it's funny, and it also shows that in the midst of all this kind of poverty and so forth, that Lucy's, his grandmother, had such a sense of humor. And I think that her sense of humor is one of the things that brought him through this very difficult period. And as I sort of mentioned yesterday, I think the best memoirs take a slice out of a life. That, this is what happened to me at this time. And sure, I'll tack on something at the end that said, I recovered, I'm okay. But I don't think we need more in the story to sort of kind of explain all of that.
Maggie, I see you scribbling notes there. Do you have some thoughts on what Linwood has said or what Saïd has said about the book?
Yeah, I agree with Saïd, and I also understand what Linwood is saying. You're focusing on an important part of life, and I agree, and I think that was the biggest question and hardest part I had with reading Jennie's Boy is he recovered, and I think I would have liked a little bit more information, and I understand that the main focus was on him being sick. Secondly, about the humor, I think, for me, it didn't really land at all. I kind of just read it as words on the page, and that might have to do with where I am in my life. Obviously, I'm in a different spot. I've read different things. So I didn't really see it as humor. I kind of just read it as more being a good descriptor of kind of what he looked like evaporated milk, or just more kind of being in the environment that he grew up in.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I guess, I mean, one of the things that I love about this, I mean, I did a memoir of my own back in the year 2000 that came out called Last Resort. And that was a book that dealt with a whole lot of things, including dealing with a schizophrenic brother and losing my father and being in the room with him when he died, when he died and I was 16 years old. And yet, being able to look back at that with time and distance, there were other moments in that whole period, which was really the toughest period of my life, some of which was very darkly funny and comic. And I think that's Wayne's skill, is that he is like, I don't think this book would be fun to read at all without these moments where he sees the irony and the humor and what he went through. And if he just presented this flat out, it would be a book of just, you know, nonstop misery. And it's the humor that I think saves it.
Michelle, please.
I agree. I don't think any of us can dispute that Wayne Johnston is a brilliant writer. And I did laugh, like the next day, thinking about moments. The Lucy with the candle, and he burns himself and cries, and everyone thinks he's crying because of the grandmother. Brilliant. But frankly, he chose like the hardest year of his life. Wayne starts out sick and his family's in crisis. He ends sicker and his family's still in crisis. And then he tags on, it's not a chapter, a paragraph. And then I got better and became an all-around athlete and a successful writer. And it's like, buddy, put some of that in the book, because we've got through this whole book, and frankly, he's a brilliant writer. It got tedious. Mm-hmm. I was 25 pages in, and I'm like, we're still in this argument between his parents. Every breath, every hand quiver. It started to feel like therapy for the author, and like he wasn't thinking about the reader. Because I think if he was, he would have included maybe not even his recovery, but maybe like a different aspect of his life, or a different, and I know you're saying he's got to focus on this one year, but I feel like he wasn't thinking about the reader enough. And I feel like I didn't come away satisfied. Mm-hmm. There wasn't even a diagnosis from the doctors. That's what kept me reading. I was like, oh, what's the diagnosis? They couldn't figure it out. Like, you kind of walked away feeling like I thought he was brilliant, but I wouldn't necessarily recommend this book of Wayne's to my friends, because it was so hard, and then we didn't get there was no payoff for the reader. Well,
it is bookended in a sense, though, because so much of the book is about his relationship with his grandmother, who looked after him because he was too sick to go to school. And so, spoiler alert, but I mean, our book concludes with the passing of Lucy. And I think that is a kind of logical conclusion, because that is what kind of bookends his story, because it starts with him having to stay with her because he's sick and ends with her passing. And I take the point that people are making that, well, we'd like to know more, but then we're looking at a much longer book and a very different kind of a book. And to start getting, I mean, again, when I had done one, I had addressed this thing you're talking about here. I wrote about a certain period of my life when I was taking over running this cottage resort and trailer park that my parents had. And I ended it with leaving when I got away, and I got married and I left. And then I tacked on this chapter then of all the things that happened to me since. And the editors were, get rid of that, because we just don't need that. Make that be your next book.
We have a minute left, so I wanted to get Shayla's opinion in here.
At the beginning, you said that all our narratives are different, but I think when we come on Canada Reads, it's important to include the narrative of Canada. And I felt like the book for me, I wanted to know more about Newfoundland, and I wanted to know more about maybe the setting, and I felt like I didn't learn much from it, and I felt like it also erased the agency in some of the people. For example, Wayne's mom, when she denies access to welfare, I think if I was in that situation, I would have wanted my son to be healthy, and so I would have accepted help. And so I think just the lack of urgency in some of the, in the mom, it kind of made me wonder how much she actually cared for her son.
Well, and I think that's an important part of the book because, and of course, that's what happened. And so, yes, I think judging her and I talked to Wayne about this. I said, is there any sort of ill will feel towards her? And he said, no, it was very much a product of the time. I mean, I take the points that everyone's made, except for the one about how you don't think it's a good portrait of Newfoundland. I think it's astonishingly brilliant at looking at this area called the Goulds, south of St. John's, and what it was like in that time. When your toilet is full and you don't have money to get the septic tank pumped and you have to cross the street and use somebody else's house all of the time. This was a magnificent, detailed portrait of that time and that place.
That is it for this round. Linwood is sitting next to Maggie. Maggie is a free agent, so we're going to skip past her. Something she is smiling about right now, reveling in the skipping past. Saïd, you're next to Maggie. That means it's your turn. You are championing the novel Dandelion by Jamie Chai Yun Liew. It's a coming-of-age novel set in British Columbia, in a mining town. It follows immigrant characters facing racism and grappling with issues such as mental illness, trauma, and abuse. 60 seconds are on the clock. What makes Dandelion the one book to change the narrative?
One common narrative about immigrants is that we are all the same, or that we have a hidden agenda when coming to Canada. Dandelion shows that immigrants are not a monolith. Some people came because they had to, some because they wanted to. Some thrive in this new environment, whereas some get depressed and cannot help but dream about the food, the friends, and families they left back home. Dandelion also shows that even people coming from the same country can have different socioeconomic backgrounds, education, personalities, which will result in a different immigration experience and different privileges in Canada. Dandelion humanizes immigrants and shows that they're not a wave flooding and disrupting the country. And no, they do not have a hidden motive except surviving the next winter. Immigrants are regular people with dreams, struggles, and aspirations who just want to fit in while being accepted for who they are in Canada, the country we all call home.
Thank you, Saïd. All right, panelists, you just heard what Saïd had to say about Dandelion. Michelle, let me ask you what you think your pen was scribbling particularly ferociously across the page. So let's start with you.
I have a lot to say because it's tricky for me because I loved a lot of things about this book. I think the author is very talented, and everything you say is true. Especially, I thought it was important, humanizing immigrants, showing that it's a complex experience, and the discussion of immigrants feeling like they have to perform gratitude. Do you know what I mean? Yes. Like, oh, thank you for having me in this country. Whereas, some people find it very difficult. My mother, as an immigrant, experienced depression as well. And some people don't want to stay, and that's okay. That's part of the immigrant experience. But I did feel like the theme was the most important thing, and those ideas were the most important thing, and they came across strongly. But then I feel like the story was just kind of put on top of that, and then the result was it was uneven. The pacing was uneven. I found it sometimes a bit clunky. And I hate to criticize because I've never written a novel, and it's very difficult, and I think Jamie is super talented. This is her first novel. I think she's got a lot more to come, as you pointed out, Linwood. But it felt like it was theme first, story second, and it came out kind of uneven. For example, there was food metaphors that would come out of nowhere, I felt. I don't want to take up too much time. They would come out of nowhere. There was a scene where young Lucy, is Lucy? No.
Lily.
Lily, thank you, is watching her parents have an argument. And it's all through her eyes, and suddenly there's a line like, the father's feelings were like grains of salt that had been spilled on the floor and they couldn't be picked up, which is beautiful, but it's like, did Lily think that? It took me out. It felt like I suddenly heard the author's voice instead of being in that scene with Lily. So I felt like the writing was a bit uneven.
Okay.
Saïd, yeah, please.
Yeah. I think I understand what you're saying about the pacing. And the beginning of the book is a little bit slower than the rest of the book. And I think it's mostly because at the beginning you want to have, there's two settings that you have to install. First one is the new place they're moving in, which is Canada, but you also have to make sure that people understand where they are coming from, which is Brunei. So because of that, there's a lot of time spent at the beginning to install the setting, to make sure that we understand where everybody's coming from, and then it accelerates. So I think that was intentional. And I know when I understand what you're saying when you say that it's clunky, but I think it's because at the beginning of the book, we're listening to immigrants talking. So it's kind of clunky now. And if you go back to the book at the end, when it's Lily, when she's the main character, then it's no more clunky anymore because English is her first language. And when you say that it's team first, story second, I don't really agree with this. I feel like throughout the whole book, we're really trying to see what's happening, to see where her mother went, and Lily is trying to investigate on her own and trying to investigate through her family. So I don't feel like it's only the theme that was important. And last, food. Yes, it might feel like food is coming out of nowhere like all the time, but I think that food is so important. It's just a point of anchor for immigrants. So every time you're feeling bad, you're eating something from home. Every time you're feeling happy, you're getting something from home. So that's why it might feel like there's too much food, but that's one of the ways that we communicate with each other.
All right, Maggie, can I ask you your thoughts on what you've heard so far?
No, I completely agree with both what Michelle and Saïd had said. For me, I actually really liked the organization of it. I found it really easy to follow. I also really identified with B, the sister. That's kind of how my relationship is with my sister, where we kind of just poke and prod until one of us snaps. So I did really like that, and I thought the characters were definitely very engaging. But I do agree with Michelle, it was a little clunky, and when the food metaphors kind of came out of nowhere, it didn't really explain what it was either. Sometimes I had to go back and Google, oh, this is what it means, so then I could kind of put it into my brain a little bit better. But other than that, I really enjoyed it.
Okay. I'm not sure there's any rebuttal required there, Saïd, unless you...
No, I think it was very intentional for the author to not explain what food was, which food were, the kind of food. I think she wanted actually for people to Google it, look at the pictures of the food and think, oh, that looks really good. I want to go to a restaurant that serves that kind of food.
Shayla, your thoughts?
Yeah, no, I agree with what you were saying, Maggie. I felt like because A Two-Spirit Journey has like a glossary in the back of all the characters, that's kind of what I was hoping for when I was reading that book, because at the first few chapters, I was just trying to make sense of the whole family, realizing that, it's a big family. So there's a lot of people to take note of. So I wish there was a glossary of characters. Also, yeah, maybe a glossary of the food, just so that I could have a whole thing to Google. That's a good idea. And then like maybe some maps and some images that just included more of the multi-dimensional layers of a person's culture. I feel like some people are visual learners, so I would have loved to see those aspects maybe a little bit deeper. And then for me, I just would have loved to see more of the emotional relationship between the mother and the daughter, because I felt like she didn't really, until she was a mother herself, Lily, she didn't really try to find her mom until she became a mother herself. When A Two-Spirit Journey, you're like following the relationship between the Cookum and between Ma-Nee. And so I wish I could have seen more of that relationship between the mother and daughter and like the sense of love, because oftentimes when she's a kid, she's just like, I hear more about the mom's bracelet than I hear about the relationship, I think. And so for me, I think I just wanted to see more of that emotional investment between the mother and daughter.
We have 1 minute left for this round,
Yeah,
so I'll give you some time there.
I think that one of the reasons why there wasn't too much said in regards to the relationship between the mother and Lily is because the mother was she was traumatized by her newborn son, and it feels like, and it's said in the book at some point that since that day she was never the same. Right. She was a ghost. Okay. She was not really involved in anything that was happening, and I feel like she was kind of detached from her kids, and probably only communicating with things like food. Right. But I like the idea of a map, or at least a glossary of different foods in the book.
Yeah.
Linwood, if you could do something in 20 seconds.
I'm going to be the anti-contrarian. I think this book's great. I think that it's, first of all, I want to very quickly, Ruth Rendell wrote a book a long time ago called A Judgment in Stone, in which in the first paragraph, she told you who got killed, who did it, and why. And in the first paragraph, this she says, my mom left, she walked away, we never found out, we didn't find out why. I thought that was brilliant. I think the stuff about food, I'm like, well, if I'm writing a book about and I'm having bacon and eggs, should I have to explain that for somebody? No, we can look it up.
We'll have to leave it there.
I think it's great.
That is it for this round. We have discussed 2 titles still in the running. We have 2 more books to talk about. Before we do, panelists, let's take a pause, relax, and collect your thoughts. And while you do that, let's listen to some words of encouragement from some people that you might know.
Hey, Linwood, Brent Butt here, because I heard through the vast Canadian entertainment pipeline that you're championing a book this year on Canada Reads, and I just want to say I think it's absolutely fantastic that you're finally getting into books instead of always being on your stupid video games or off to your swing dance classes. I'm kidding, of course. You're the best. I know you're going to be a great champion. Go out there, give them hell, or heck, I guess this is primetime TV. Good luck, Linwood.
Saïd, it is Mary Berg. I am cheering you on for Canada Reads this year. I am so excited to hear everything you have to offer. You are going to absolutely crush it. If you can teach me how to make croissants, you can win this.
Hi, this is Christian Allaire, winner of Canada Reads 2022. And I'm here to cheer on Shayla Stonechild. Shayla, I believe in your book, and I believe in your ability to defend it. All of Indian country is cheering you on, and girl, you got this. Good luck.
Hi, Michelle. It's Bae. I just want to say I am so proud of you. This is so amazing. As actors, we are storytellers, and I have no doubt that the next time I see you, we'll get to talk about your big win. Your commitment and your dedication and passion is truly inspiring, and it shows through in everything that you do. I believe in you. You got this. If anybody can win this, it'll be you. Good luck.
She plays my daughter. It's a big reader.
That was comedian and Linwood's friend Brent Butt, celebrity chef and Saïd's friend Mary Berg, fashion writer and Shayla's friend Christian Allaire, and actor Bae McPherson, who co-stars with Michelle on CBC's Heartland. I'm Ali Hassan. This is Canada Reads on CBC Radio 1 and Sirius XM. Panelists, the break is over. Let's get back to the debate. Michelle, you are next to Saïd, which means it is your turn. You're championing Etta and Otto and Russell and James. It is a novel that touches on themes of mental health. It centers on a sprightly 82-year-old woman who walks from Saskatchewan to Halifax to fulfill her dream of seeing the ocean. You have 60 seconds. What makes Etta and Otto and Russell and James the one book to change the narrative?
This novel challenges the narrative in so many ways. It challenges how we view dementia, not as an ending, but as a shifting, evolving state of being where people still have agency and still matter. It challenges how we see love, not as ownership, but as a bond that evolves. It challenges how we experience time and aging, blurring the past and the present, and reminding us that our memories, our stories, and our lives can exist all at once. But most importantly, this book challenges the narrative because it challenges what we expect from a novel. It refuses to follow modern literary boundaries or to fit into a conventional genre. The author plays with words like a musician bending notes. It grapples with grand themes like war and illness and trauma without succumbing to bitterness and anger. Instead, those themes are approached with tenderness and open-heartedness. And the result is a truly unique story from a truly unique Canadian author. This book dares to tell stories differently, and that is how you change the narrative.
Thank you, Michelle. All right, panelists, you heard what Michelle has to say. What do you think? Maggie, I'm going to start with you. There was one vote against this book yesterday. It was yours. What are your thoughts on what Michelle had to say just now?
Yeah, I thought it's a really cute story, and just watching their relationship kind of evolve from childhood-ish, more like middle-aged teen years, all the way through till they get to their old age. But for me, it was really challenging to get through the stylistic elements of it. And I found myself kind of struggling along. It took me a little while to get through it, just with kind of the sentence structure, the overall like, kind of chapter format, as well as like the no quotation dialogue, which was I think kind of just dissonant to what I expect from a book. But I appreciate that it was different than anything I've read before.
Yeah. You know, I was thinking about what you mentioned yesterday, and I went and I read that one sentence paragraph. And I think, like, if you can move past that, and like for me, it wasn't an issue, for some people it is, if you can move past that, it's really playful. That one sentence paragraph is Russell's entire backstory. And it goes from his father getting sick and dying and Russell carrying pitchers of water up the stairs. So it kind of goes by in a blur of a sentence, like his father's death went by in a blur for Russell. So I think she's playing with the structure and the words. And were you able to understand when people were speaking without the quote? Yeah. So I think, like, the layout still allowed you to understand that. But I appreciate that it was challenging for some people.
Shayla, what were your thoughts on the book and what you've heard?
Mentioning a blur, I think the whole book was a blur for me because there were so many different styles happening, and I think I wasn't really ready for that going into it, and it wasn't until the very ending where I started to make sense of the book, to be honest, because there was always so many different timelines and then different people talking, lack of quotations. And the two parts that really stuck out to me in this book were when Otto's talking about being at war, and he's like, there's a part on page 166 saying we're all moving together, we're all fighting together, and even though everything is horrible, this is how I feel like interconnected. And so I really appreciated that moment, and I appreciated the last chapter of them being in the water and you don't know what time it is or who's who. That I really appreciated, but outside of those two chapters, I felt like I was too lost most of the book. And so I had to reread a lot of it to make sense of it. And so as a reader, it just took a lot more time than I think I would normally spend on reading a book. But I mean, that's just a preference too. I prefer nonfiction. I prefer to know like the resolution of something. I prefer to know the details. And I think for me, this was just a little outside of like what I would normally read. And so it's not to say like, yeah, it was just a bit of a challenge for me to get through.
Right, like, so you were a bit confused.
I was mainly just confused, but then once I understood like the author is a musician, then I also understood like the way she approached it. But for me, I think as a reader, I just wasn't ready for all the overlapping timelines.
Well, I'm glad you were able to draw out some moments that you still, that like spoke to you, and you know, and I wonder if you were to read it a second time, if you would have a different experience, like if you're prepared more for like a different structure.
Yeah, and the one thing I will say though too is I didn't really get, like I felt like Etta's reason for leaving, I didn't really know why. Like the stakes didn't feel as high for me, and I think that's also maybe why I wasn't as emotionally invested in Etta's journey.
Right, yeah. And that's actually one of the things with the book is like you realize the importance of things later as they're revealed. Because to me it was and maybe this isn't for everyone, but to me it was because she had lost her sister who had to go to join a convent in the Maritimes. And also she'd never seen the water. So in my mind, it was like she'd given her whole life to this marriage, to this farm. And now at the end of her life, she was like, wait a minute, I need to do something for me.
Right.
Even though I love my husband, I'm leaving him to do something for myself.
Linwood, what are your thoughts here?
This is a kind of classic book I would call it's not you, it's me. You know, it's not, it's that, I think there's a lot of really good writing in this book. I think it's very inventive. I think it's very, we subscribed to the New Yorker magazine for 40 years, and in all that time, I think I've read 2 poems in all of those issues. So, and this is a very kind of poetic novel.
I agree.
And I think it's really well, and I think it's really well done. And it's just, it's not my kind of book. And so I find it difficult to sort of criticize it in that way, because I think it's probably really good. The characterizations are good. It's very inventive. I think she's a really terrific writer. I did find that I tried my patience some, but I think that you know, I sort of felt more it was like a failing on my part that I didn't appreciate it more, because it's not my kind of book. But I think there's a lot of stuff in it that's really good, and so that's a very kind of. It's not a criticism, really. It's just it couldn't quite work for me. I mean, I could do a whole rant about no quotation marks and why I think that's a kind of an affectation that some writers use, and I sort of think, well, maybe I should write a book and not use the letter R, and just, you know, but I don't see the reason for it. But aside from that, I mean, you know, Cormac McCarthy did it in The Road, and you know, Roddy Doyle does it all the time, but at least it's a little clearer. So I think there's a lot of stuff that's really good in this book. It just wasn't my kind of book.
I appreciate that, and everyone is totally permitted their opinions, and not every book is for everyone. But I do think if we're looking at writing as an art form, what is the point of art if not to push the bounds and to try to change things, to experiment? right?
Yeah.
And I found I was really surprised by this book. There were parts of it that I didn't like either, actually. There was a couple parts where I was like, oh, I could skip this chapter. But overall, my experience of the book was profound and was like, it pushed me beyond my comfort with the book. And I think that's what the best books should do. But I appreciate your opinion.
The style didn't bother me too much, even though I can understand why it could be confusing for the reader. I think for me, what I was missing was the part of the lives. There's a time skip,
big time skip.
A big time skip. We can see what's happening to them when they're young, and then we see what's happening when they're old. But we have no idea what's happening in between. And I wish we would have known a little bit more about how Russell dealt with the fact that Otto came back and he didn't have his love anymore. I wish we had known more about the trauma, like the post-traumatic disorder Otto probably experienced after. I felt like there were some pieces missing here and there, and I was very frustrated about it.
That's a really good point, and that was done on purpose. But I wondered too, and there is one scene with Russell, I don't know if you remember, where it's the only scene in between when they're married, where he finds her and she's had a miscarriage. And then he's watching from the truck as they're inside, and he's kind of dreaming if he could be with her, because Russell, as we know, really loves Etta. So that was done on purpose, and I think the idea is that we have to fill in the blanks, and we have to imagine, like, what was their life like, and why is Otto this way now, and why would she want to go on this journey now? Why is she dreaming about his time in the war?
We'll have to leave it there. That is it for this round. Shayla, you're sitting next to Michelle. That means it is your turn. You're championing A Two-Spirit Journey by Ma-Nee Chacaby, written with Mary Louisa Plummer. The memoir tells the story of Ma-Nee Chacaby, an Ojibwe Cree woman who overcame early life trauma, abuse, and addiction to become a counselor and lead Thunder Bay's first gay pride parade. 60 seconds are on the clock. What makes A Two-Spirit Journey the one book to change the narrative?
A Two-Spirit Journey is a book that changes the narrative because how often have you read a book about an Indigenous woman, a visually impaired individual, a person who has lived the realities of working class struggle and poverty, and a Two-Spirit elder? Many people in our society are marginalized and their voices go unheard in literature, in history, and in the dominant narrative. This book changes that. It offers insights into the lived experiences of Ma-Nee, who embodies resilience, survival, and wisdom in ways rarely seen in print. Yet she brings a humble heart and an uplifting spirit. In Ma-Nee's words, "Today I know how to help myself get through difficult times positively. I drum, I sing, and smudge myself daily. I focus on love and forgiveness for myself and others. I talk to the Great Spirit, sometimes at home and other times by a river, in town, or in the bush. I walk long distances every day. I take pleasure in whatever nature there is around me, whether I'm in the city or in the country." This book doesn't just change the narrative, it expands it to make space for voices that are often silenced.
I mean, making me the enemy. Shayla pointed at me when she said voices that are silenced. That's the bell. We blame the bell. We cannot blame the moderator. Panelists, you just heard what Shayla had to say about A Two-Spirit Journey. What are your thoughts? Saïd, let me start with you.
I thought that the story of Ma-Nee was incredible. Very, very good. Like I learned so many things when I read her story. One of the things that I had trouble with is, I mean, it's when it comes to the narrative, there's something missing. We lack context. So we lack context because the reason why all of those things are happening to Ma-Nee is, like I said earlier, it's not her fault. But there's a system. There's at multiple level in Canada or in the world maybe that make it so she's in that dire situation. And it's not really mentioned. I mean, at some point it's mentioned, like residential schools are mentioned, but I would have liked to know more, to have more information, because I fear that without context, some people might, get the wrong idea about Indigenous communities and not understand that it's happening there not because of intrinsic qualities, but because of a system. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and I totally understand what you're saying, and I think this often happens with Indigenous people is we get boxed in to always be advocates for bringing awareness to history and bringing awareness and always educating people on the history, and it's always put on our backs, and it's always our responsibility to make sure that people know about this happened to us, X, Y, and Z, this is why this system's in place, and sometimes it just gets so tiring, and it's a lot of responsibility for us always to be advocating for people to know about the history within Canada. So I think Ma-Nee does a really good job of, you know, saying where her experience has come from, but also hoping that this opens the eyes and the ears to the readers to also further do their own research and their own education on what's happened here, because I think that's a part of allyship and that's a part of reconciliation, is like taking your own responsibility to know where you are and like know where you live. And so I think she also does mention residential schools, and she does mention a bit about the 60 Scoop, but I think it wasn't Ma-Nee's responsibility to ensure that she speaks about the whole history of Canada and its relationship to Indigenous people.
Maggie, what are your thoughts on both the book and what you've been hearing?
Yeah, like to agree with Shayla, she does touch on residential schools, but she also didn't go to one, so she doesn't have that experience. There's a lot of things that I learned about this book, like I said yesterday, and I think out of all the books, this is the one where I learned the most. I thought it was interesting because you really get a picture of what it was like in Northern Ontario back then. I'm not really familiar with that part of the province and or what it was like back in the day, so it was really nice to kind of get that picture, and not even just Ontario. I mean, she moved all over the place, all the way to Manitoba, I think, and Winnipeg, and kind of back again. I also did like how she had the definitions right after the Ojibwe words, so it was really continuous for the reader to find. The thing I had the biggest challenge with, I think, is the layout of how she described the events. And I can easily recall, like, oh, this happened, and then she was here with this friend, but it's challenging because I think she grouped a bunch of similar experiences together within the same chapter, the same paragraph, and I think that goes back to Linwood's point. You're covering such a broad period of time, so I think it's just hard to remember like the little details, but like I remember a lot of kind of the general idea of what happened during that period, but just not the small ones.
Yeah, and I think she did, Mary did a good job of breaking it up in a chronological order through the years that it was mentioned, because she does mention, you know, this happened from 1863 to this year. And so it is broken up in that way. But I actually honor that kind of part of the book because I don't know about you, but my memory is not the best. And to be able to recall all those experiences kind of in that chronological order, I was honestly impressed by Ma-Nee's ability to do that. And for me, as a reader, I did have to put it down a few times to absorb the information, but I think that just comes with reading a book. It's like sometimes you do have to do that to know what exactly you're reading.
Linwood, let me get you in here.
Yeah, a theme I see around the table sometimes is that we want books to be something that the authors never intended them to be. Like, well, why didn't Wayne tell the rest of his story? Or why didn't Emma write more straightforwardly? Or, you know, why didn't she explain what, you know, and I think, well, the author, because that's not what the author wanted to do. And my initial criticism with Ma-Nee's story was that, well, it just feels like somebody just wrote down everything that she said. And my argument was, well, I think couldn't it have been presented more, you know, artfully or crafted it in a sort of different way? But then I don't think that was the intention. It was never intended to be that kind of a book. And so it accomplishes what it set out to do, which was for Ma-Nee to tell her story. And so maybe I would have wanted it, at times I was thinking I wanted it done in a different way, but at the same time, having read it, it stayed with me. And her experience opened my eyes to stuff that I was, you know, I really didn't know a lot about.
Yeah.
So I feel like the criticism that I would make of the book, I'm not even sure it's that valid because that's not what the book was meant to be.
We have a,
you know,
hard 30 seconds.
I would also say, like, she is visually impaired. So even just writing this book was probably a lot of legwork for Ma-Nee herself. And so I found that really credible. And also English wasn't her first language. She learned English at the age of, I think it was like 20. So English not being her first language, being visually impaired, I mean, this is I'm surprised that we're even holding this book in our hands, to be honest. So I'm very proud of her ability to complete this despite every reason not to.
We'll have to leave it there. That is it for this round.
Okay.
Wow, that's quite a day. We've heard a lot today about each of the books. We aren't done yet. I'm giving you one last chance to champion your book before we head into today's elimination vote. Linwood, a final chance to persuade the panel that Jennie's Boy should stay on the Canada Reads bookshelf. 30 seconds are on the clock.
This, I believe, is a beautiful, honestly written memoir that is of its time and of its place. And Wayne Johnston has captured it beautifully, this slice of time. And I think that, when we talk about changing the narrative, I think we read this, I think we will get a sense that if Wayne could get through all of this, then what are we complaining about? There's a wonderful part in here where as a kid, he's reading The Grapes of Wrath, and he's thinking, boy, they had it so good. So I think it's a terrific book.
Okay. Thank you, Linwood. Your final chance, Saïd, to make the case for why Dandelion should not be voted off Canada Reads today. 30 seconds are on the clock.
I put a lot of emphasis on immigration, and I think that Dandelion is a great book that humanizes immigrants, but I also think that there's so many different themes that are talked about in that book, such as mental health and motherhood. What being a mother, obviously I'm not a mother, but what being a mother can do to someone, what being a mother, what losing a child can do to you, how can it transform you?
Thank you, Saïd. Michelle, you are next. You have a final 30 seconds to convince your fellow panelists that Etta and Otto and Russell and James should stay another day on Canada Reads.
I think it's brave to write a book about an octogenarian protagonist, but maybe not for a writer who understands that there is more to life than the snapshot of right now, that a rich, full, long life is anything but boring, and it's brave to write a love story that's messy, that isn't tied in a bow. Etta and Otto are drawn to each other, but it's Russell, the best friend, the constant presence, who makes the love story complete. And it's brave to bend reality, to weave magic and the absurd into a story set in a very real period of history, and to risk stepping beyond static literary conventions.
Thank you, Michelle. Shayla, it is your turn. Please make one final argument that convinces your fellow panelists that to keep a two-spirit journey on Canada Reads table. 30 seconds are on the clock.
Most Canadians still don't fully understand what it means to be Two-Spirit, how it was once honored in many Indigenous cultures, but violently attempted to be erased through colonization. A Two-Spirit journey reclaims that identity, showing how Indigenous cultures around gender and sexuality are not new, but they've been deliberately erased through colonization. Until Two-Spirit people are fully acknowledged, respected, and included in policies, culture, and spaces of power, Canada cannot claim to be a nation of equity, and this is why.
Thank you, Shayla. The bell comes for all. Okay, panelists, that is it. That's the end of today's debate. It is time to vote. You all have your ballots in front of you, panelists. Please mark an X beside the book that you want to eliminate from the competition. Once you have voted, Julia from the Canada Reads team will take your ballot. A reminder that there are no secret ballots on Canada Reads. Watch out for her was voted off on day one. Which title will be the next to go? Will it be Jennie's Boy by Wayne Johnston? Linwood Barclay is championing that memoir. Or will it be Dandelion by Jamie Chai Yun Liew? This novel is being championed by Saïd M'Dahoma. Will it be Eda and Otto and Russell and James by Emma Hooper? This novel was selected by Michelle Morgan. Or will it be A Two-Spirit Journey by Ma-Nee Chacaby, written with Mary Louisa Plummer, the memoir chosen by Shayla Stonechild. I did notice that today's vote, not in every case, but in some cases took a little longer. Shayla, you were quite quick to place your vote. And I noticed that Maggie, you took a little bit more time. I feel like you wrote a little bit extra information in there besides just an X. And Saïd, Your eyes wandered, looking for the answer out there above the table. Yeah. The answer will be coming to us very soon. I have the ballots. Thank you. Michelle Morgan, let's start with you. How did you vote today?
It was very sad to vote Jennie's boy.
We have one vote against Jennie's boy. Linwood Barclay, how did you vote?
I voted off Emma and Otto and Russell and James.
Yes, Etta and Otto. Emma is the writer.
Sorry, Etta. I was looking at the board over there, and I don't have my contacts in.
One vote against Etta and Otto and Russell and James. One vote against Jennie's boy are on the table. Maggie Mac Neil, how did you vote?
I voted for Dandelion.
One vote against Dandelion. 3 votes are on the table for 3 different books. Shayla Stonechild, how did you vote?
Jennie's boy.
We have a second vote against Jennie's boy. Saïd M'Dahoma, how did you vote?
I voted against Jennie's boy.
All right. Okay. With 3 votes against it, that does mean that Jennie's boy has been eliminated from Canada Reads. We have a little bit of time, about 3 minutes with our radio audience. Linwood, if you need time to sort of process that, I'll honor that. But if you'd like to say a few things.
Well, I'm disappointed. I think Wayne's done a lovely book, but Wayne and I will both get through this. And the great thing is that, Jennie's boy has gotten a lot of attention that it deserves, and a lot of people are going to pick up this book and enjoy it. And the other books, whatever book is going to win on this table, is going to be a deserving winner. It's going to be, and so it's okay. It's a really good book, and I think thousands of people are going to enjoy it. And if it didn't win Canada Reads, it's still out there.
Yeah, I should mention that it hit #1 on CBC's bestseller list, along with being on a Canadian bestseller list. I'm going to say I should also mention, I don't know if I should, but I will also mention that this is not Wayne's first time being on Canada Reads. His book, The Colony of Unrequited Dreams, was defended by former Prime Minister Justin Trudeau when he was not yet Prime Minister. And Justin Trudeau famously voted against his own book.
I know. I was hoping to make it up to Wayne, but you just can't always do these things.
I will say that something that I've heard about this book as well has been that in a strange way, the book's for Wayne Johnston's writing. And I think the criticism that you heard was never about the writing. It was more about the timing of the story and how long it took and what was left unsaid and what more we would have liked to hear have heard from Wayne. So I think Wayne has done himself another favor by getting people to be like, okay, what else has this man written? And so, yeah, I think you are not wrong to say it's going to be okay.
Oh, it's going to be fine.
Yeah, that's great. And any last words with the 10 seconds we have left to Wayne himself?
Well, the good news is that I don't have to take Wayne up on his offer to go to Newfoundland and eat all those unusual the cod liver oil.
It's not supposed to be good news,
that was my big fear, was that he would win and I'd have to go out there and do that. So
all the delicacies he presented to you, Linwood.
I was a little worried.
Yeah, I bet you were. Well, in a second, we're going to hear some music, just like the Oscars. We get played off here from our radio audience. And there it is. So we say a goodbye to Jennie's boy from Canada Reads 2025. We're also saying goodbye to the folks who are listening on CBC Radio right now. If you're online or watching on TV, we have a few more minutes with our panelists. There are 3 books left, Etta and Otto and Russell and James, Dandelion, and A Two-Spirit Journey. I'm Ali Hassan. We have 2 days left and 2 eliminations to go until we find the one book all of Canada should read. Today's debate is over. We're going to talk about what went down today. Linwood, we heard a little bit from you. I wanted to hear from the rest of you about this book. And I know, our debate rounds allowed for a fair amount of conversation. But obviously, this guy gets in the way sometimes. So tell me about your thoughts, Shayla, about this book and reading this book. Oh, Michelle, I apologize if you wanted to.
No, it's okay. Shayla can start.
We'll have time for you, certainly.
Honestly, yesterday I thought I was going to vote Jenny's Boy off, but the way that you were able to champion it totally shifted my vote yesterday. And so I really appreciate how you're able to champion Jenny's Boy. I think you're very, I don't know, you like bring me on this journey of wanting to read it, even though while I was reading it, I was like, why am I reading this? So I really appreciate how you're such a strong advocate for it. And yeah, Jenny's Boy, I think just with the narrative and the theme, one book to change the narrative, I think it just didn't fit with the theme, but it doesn't denounce the writing or the style or your work at all. I think you did a great job of championing Jenny's Boy, and honestly, I wish you were helping me champion this.
You're a champion's champion, Linwood. I do want to ask you as well, Michelle, you did vote against it today, but I know that the book
I
did
was
leave you with something.
sad because I think he's so talented, and I'm thankful that you introduced me to him. My favorite genre of Canadian writing is all set in the Maritimes. David Adams Richards, Wayne Johnston, my favorite. Sorry, Michael Crummy, I meant to say. So I'm really looking forward to reading more of his writing. And as I mentioned, it really did stay with me. I laughed, I cried, and Lucy in particular, you can tell that he has so much love for his grandmother and the way he captured that relationship and that home. And I learned a lot about Newfoundland culture. I didn't know they still did that thing with the eighth son, of the eighth son being like a magical healer. That's like from historical Newfoundland as well. I didn't know that had carried on until that time period, so I learned.
Yeah, that's a good question for Wayne.
Yeah. Saïd, you also voted against the book?
Yeah, I did, but the writing was really great. And what was interesting is that it uncovered memories. So when I was a kid, I used to cough all the time. I used to go to the hospital all the time. And nobody knew why, and nobody ever knew why. So, and it was funny because I was waiting to see when he would go to the hospital if there would be an answer. And just like for me, there wasn't any answer. Sometimes there's just not, and people just recover. So that's what I really liked about the book. And I think it's the only book for which I cried at the end.
Where were you when I needed you?
I just cried because the whole book I was like, okay, it's kind of repetitive. And then that conversation with Ned, I just, wept.
Yep.
I just cried like a baby.
Yeah. Maggie, I'd like to get you in.
Yeah, I really enjoyed the writing, I think, more so than any of the other books. It really kind of pulled me in, and I also have ties to the Maritimes as well. But I think I learned a lot about like the setting and like kind of what like Michelle said.
All right. Well, it's Linwood, you know, your thoughts here. I know it's a weird thing because you just heard a lot of love for the book, and you're like, that's not what was going on just now.
I know. Don't think I won't forget this.
Well, that's the spirit. That's the spirit right there. Vengeful. We like a vengeful panelist. We don't actually. We like what we had today. It was a great day. I do also want to, with the little time that I have, talk about the many Canadians who are participating in Canada Reads watch parties, events. I remember being told this at a comedy show once. Somebody apologized to me and said, I'm sorry, we're kind of nerds, but we get together and have a Canada Read watch party every day. And I said, please don't ever apologize for that. That is certainly something worth celebrating. So in Manitoba, at the University of Manitoba, they have a Canada Reads watch party. Hello to them. Callender Public Library does a watch party for the finale. Canada Reads watch party at Ingersoll Public Library and Oxford County Library as well. Thank you to all of you in the various ways that you celebrate and honor Canadian literature. That is definitely the most special offshoot of what we do here on this show. It has been a great day of debate. I think we got a lot of thoughts and feelings out. You know, some strategies maybe were revealed. Not that I know, but as you go back and think about it later, you might be like, is that strategy? We have 2 free agents at our table, which means that this show, like a good book, you know, the plot thickens here on Canada Reads. But that is a wrap on our show Today, I want to say thanks to all our panelists, Linwood Barclay, Maggie Mac Neil, Saïd M'Dahoma, Michelle Morgan, and Shayla Stonechild. I think you're all going to be back tomorrow. It feels like that's what we're looking at here. We'll see you all then. I'm Ali Hassan, and until then, read on, Canada.